guys, Ron here, and today we're going to be making some Eeveelutions, specifically for my region, Asone. Speaking of which, here's the map. This is the beta map I drew. It took 6 months of planning and gathering reference, and another 6 months of literally drawing it. I'm going to give it to another team of artists to draw it in an official Pokemon map style, but that won't be done until a few weeks from now, so we'll use the beta map I made for this video, since some of the Eeveelutions evolve in certain locations in Asone. There are also tons of markets in Asone that sell the various evolution items you'll need to evolve these Eevees. I was originally going to only make 2 Eeveelutions for Asone, but that would make for a rather short video, so I decided to make enough to fill an entire video. I have been super hesitant to make these since Eeveelutions are some of the most highly speculated type of Pokemon in existence, so it would be hard to satisfy decades of desires. Plus, I gotta make sure the proportions and details follow the design philosophies of all the other Eeveelutions. It's a grand undertaking, but I'm finally ready to do it. Let's go! First, I'm going to make the obvious Eeveelution for a desert-based region. A sound-powered ground-type Eeveelution that takes a bit of inspiration from ancient Egypt. Maybe a Heka scepter-shaped tail, something a little subtle. I'm going to throw in a little Sphinx cat into it too, something that is clearly related to Espeon. The proportions are the most important. I can make a base Eeveelution first, and then fill it with all the necessary details for its type. This one is going to be inspired by desert cats and Sphinx cats. A small snout and cat eyes, long upright ears since I gotta give it a unique ear that no other Eeveelution has, a little tuft and tail in the shape of the Heka scepters Pharaoh's had, and a mane that subtly references the Pharaoh's necklace and headdress. Some Egyptian-inspired makeup patterns, but all these patterns will also be part of general cat stripes that it'll have, something natural that desert cats would have. Adding these stripes and refining the design, I wanted to add more tufts of fur around, but I decided it would look better if it was clean cut like royalty. Sand colors with green cat eyes, some variation like the actual ground, and here is Alluvion, the deposit Pokemon, named after the deposit of clay, dirt, and sand that collects at the delta of rivers like the Nile, which makes the land around them fertile. Eevee evolves into Alluvion when leveled up while holding special soft sand in the deserts of Asone. Alluvion's cellular structure is similar to sand. It can divide itself into grains of sand and disappear into the desert sky. It uses this as a form of travel, floating in the wind, to hide while hunting for prey, and to flee from danger. The sand from Alluvion's body has collected throughout Asone, making some locations very fertile. In ancient times, it was worshipped as a fertility god. Alluvion is very quiet and subtle in its movements. It's a very proficient hunter. It can easily hide and has an amazing sense of hearing. Alluvion can control the sand and dirt around it. It can create an armor coating of stiff sand that protects its body, and even increase the density of its limbs, giving it the ability to land harsh blows. Its eyes are covered in special film that prevents sand from damaging its eyes. Its night vision is superb, and it has the ability Sand Veil with the hidden ability Sand Rush. Since all Eeveelutions have a stat distribution of 130, 110, 95, 65, 65, and 60, you'll notice that I was limited with how to distribute the stats of these Eeveelutions. And I'm very proud of how the art for Alluvion turned out. I'm a huge fan of subtle design elements. Most ground Eeveelutions lean a little too much into the Egyptian theme, which goes against the very sleek design of all Eeveelutions. I'm glad mine looks extremely sleek too. It also has a very unique vibe compared to other Eeveelutions, aloof but not unfriendly. Now, I've wanted a dragon Eeveelution for a long time. The problem is that as fans, we don't really know if we'd want an Asian or European inspired Eeveelution. Most iconic European dragons are winged, and we can't have a dual typed Eeveelution that is dragon and flying type. So it'll be a wingless drake. But I don't want to make a reptilian Eevee. It'll have fur and horns inspired by Eastern dragons. A bulky yet long Eeveelution that is inspired by both Eastern and Western dragons. The face was the easiest part, the rest was super hard. I know I wanted it to have a small snout and Chinese dragon horns. The pose was tough. I didn't know how long its body or neck needed to be. Throughout the process, I will change the proportions. I still didn't know whether or not I wanted a mane or how to integrate it. Its hair looked too much like a widow's peak, so I scrapped that. Also, Eevee's paws are super minimal, so it was hard giving it claws without making them too complicated. I decided to scrap the mane and focus on giving it that trail of fur on its back and a small beard instead. I added some scales and colored it green and white, but it looks too uniform. The introduction of yellow really completed the design. Check out Drakeon, the draconic Pokemon. It evolves when leveling up while holding a dragon scale where the east meets the west in Asone, right here on the map. Every settlement in Asone has a different perception of Drakeon. Some villages find it beautiful, some find it to be a grotesque mutation of the pure Eevee, some find it benevolent, able to cure ailments and grant wishes, while some believe it is destructive and greedy. It's true that Drakeon are very fickle. They are very intelligent and each has a drastically different personality. They can master all natural elements and inhabit all sorts of locations. They're very possessive and will guard any object or person they deem precious. Their horns have been a key ingredient in Asonian medicines for millennia. Drakeon are able to live incredibly long lives, longer than any evolution. It is said that the Asonian lords who love these Eevees would evolve them into Drakion so that they can be with them for the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, that meant that these Drakion would outlive their trainers by many years. They have the ability Levitate and the hidden ability Natural Cure. Their shiny is a golden dragon, and I think I was successful in making a dragon Eevee that takes inspiration from both East and Western dragons. It's not too long like a Chinese dragon and has some of the bulk of a European dragon. I'm also satisfied of how it's very dragon-like, but clearly still an evolution with those iconic eyes. The green is also very appealing to me. This took way longer than any of the other Eevees I made today, and double the amount of time it takes to make the average Fakemon of mine. Hopefully you like it. Now I want to make a steel evolution, but there are so many ways to go about doing it. It can be sleek and sharp, or bulky and heavy, or covered in armor. How close are the metallic parts? Is it a uniform shiny Eevee, or does it have multiple plates? If it has armor, what style of armor is it? I think I want to make a Metallion that has a good balance of all of these attributes. It'll have natural metal plates, but not too bulky. It'll still look sleek and have sharp parts. First, I'm making the generic evolution body before adding all the armor on top of it. The one thing I was adamant about was the horn. I knew I wanted that, but I didn't know what style of helmet I wanted. Medieval or Roman. I thought this unique one would fit, but it doesn't look like a helmet. I began to give it some plating, but I didn't know what configuration it should be. The shoulder pads were clashing a bit, but I think adding a pattern that could be consistent throughout the whole body would make it cohesive. Some boots. Finally deciding on a helmet shape. Finalized the sword tail, and decided on a layout for the back armor. I added this pattern throughout each section, but that'll be different in the final design. It's gray, what else would it be? It's kinda cool, but the patterns will be finalized later. Behold Metallion! The armor Pokemon. Evolves from Eevee when defeating 3 consecutive Pokemon and holding ancient armor. Metallion have been used in battle since ancient times. In the heat of war, soldiers would desperately evolve their Eevees into Metallion to help in combat, but would ultimately refrain from using their beloved Eevee in actual war. These battle-ready Pokemon would instead be used in competitive Pokemon battles during peacetime to utilize their battle spirit. Only the strongest of Eevees can inherit ancient armor and evolve into Metallion. This gave them the defense they needed to fully utilize their abilities without guarding themselves. No sword can cut through Metallion's armor. They use their horn to pierce the armor of their enemies and brandish their tail to cut any foe that decides to attack from behind. They're quite flexible but not too fast on account of their weight. They're brave, courageous, and valiant. They crave action and love to save others, but this makes them impatient and bored easily when not active or not in the spotlight. I love the green shiny. They have the ability Battle Armor and hidden ability Sturdy. It's the most straightforward of the evolutions today. It's covered in armor and likes to battle. It's the least creative but looks the most like an evolution. This is basically around what most people thought a steel Eevee would look like. The patterns and individual plates were very hard to determine though. Hopefully you think the armor looks like it was naturally integrated into its body. Now it's time to make a ghost Eevee. We want it to look ghostly, but still something you don't feel sad looking at. Something that isn't creepy or cruel. We gotta give it a backstory that would make you want to have one. This one was rather easy. It's a floating, wavy Eevee. Ghosts aren't too detailed, so I didn't have to worry about patterns or plating, but I did have to come up with a theme for the entire body. I decided to make its ears and tail wispy, and added this curl on its head that boosts its personality by 20. It's so friendly looking, very pretty. Now all I have to do is refine the lines. I removed the nose because I thought it would make it look more ghostly, but I gave it those back in the final design. Gave it more wisps on its limbs, and tried to decide how transparent and light it would be. I settled with a middle ground purple with hollow green eyes. The ends of its wisp would be more transparent, like Dragapult's tail. At the end I added these white patterns that look like bones, but made sure again that they look a bit subtle. Beware Spectrion, the Spectre Pokemon. It evolves from an Eevee whose happiness is maxed out when fainting in this forest in Asone. When a truly happy Eevee has a near-death experience, it's given spiritual abilities from the ghosts of Pokemon who fell in ancient Asonian wars. Its love for its trainer returns it to the land of the living with the ability to evaporate. It can become intangible, walk through walls, disappear, and fly. It's much more unique than the other evolutions. Spectrion can talk to spirits and summon powers from the land of the dead. It can see the soul of all living beings, and is happy to know that its trainer's soul is pure. Wild Spectrion are formerly trained Spectrion whose trainers have passed. They roam Asone, helping spirits move on to the afterlife. When they find a new trainer with a pure soul, they will secretly follow them. They can possess the bodies of others for a few minutes. Spectrion will only use this ability as a last resort. They have the ability Clear Body and hidden ability Cursed Body. Of course, I wanted to give them Levitate, but I thought it wouldn't be appropriate to give 2 Eeveelutions the same ability. I tried very hard to make this Pokemon's backstory happy, and its evolution method far from tragic. It's not dead, just brought back to life at the brink of death, and inheriting ghost powers from Pokemon who are dead, and wanted this Eevee to lead a happy life with their trainer. This way, you can't just put your Eevee in danger to evolve it into Spectreon, you actually have to love it. This is my personal favorite in terms of balance of design, personality, and subtle design references. It looks like a ghost, but isn't scary or too dead looking. Perhaps I can make 4 more new Eeveelutions. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see that. Check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early. You can also get rewards by clicking the join button to become a member. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and on Instagram to see the final artwork of my Pokemon. I have an entire Asone playlist on the channel too, by the way. Bye!